Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What is an item that everyone misuses but the makers pretend they don't know? Back in the days of the Prohibition, a lot of grape juice was sold with extremely explicit instructions of all the things you'd need to do to ferment it, but with the disclaimer of, here's what's illegal to do. After dissolving a brick in a gallon of water, do not place in a cupboard for 20 days because it will turn to wine. Man, I just don't understand how Prohibition passed. People were so hypocritically prudish in that era. Edit. Lots of people commenting the same things, such as Ken Burns, feminism, temperance movement, the war on drugs today, and, we used to be. We still are, but we used to be too. No, you weren't the first person to think of that joke. Kmart, spice grinders, that for some reason are one of the only products in the kitchen aisle to have anti-theft devices on them. Edit. Kmart is still really big in house. You're telling me you don't grind your pepper in one of these? Some blurred Photoshop on the fifth image with the man covering the woman's face. Funny. I was online yesterday looking for a whole nutmeg grinder. For actual whole nutmeg that I bought in the Caribbean. I started seeing whole spice grinders, with moons and stars painted all over them. And I was thinking, oh, that will look nice in my kitchen, and then realized, oh duh, this is not for nutmeg. I should know better. Same happened to me when I decided I needed a small scale for baking. Wow, so many options. This one fits in your pocket. Quote, I use a microplane for my whole nutmeg. I have a dry herb vape that from the instructions seems to think that people really want to inhale the essence of rosemary or thyme. When Florida cracked down on bongs, they were being sold as salad dressing pourers. Sometimes bongs, pop up on Amazon. They're usually listed as vases. Hey. Ignore the spout at the bottom where the water comes out when you overfill it. Better stuff some green stuff in there to keep it in. Maybe burn it a bit for good measure. Recently, I found out the existence of fake urine for experiments and pranks. Quote, the real use is to bypass drug tests. I bought this once like 15 years ago. The guy at the shop, like an alt store with a head shop, sex toys section, was having the time of his life giving me a long speech about the ins and outs of water sports, urine play before letting me buy it. He knew. I've never felt so trolled in my life. Passed the test though. Had an employee ask me, this is for fetish use. You have to say yes or I can't sell it to you. Quote, thought it was hilarious. The stuff does indeed work to pass a test though. We had a vape shop open up recently in our rural area. Went in to check out their selection. They had like one flavor of vape. The rest of the place was filled with bongs. Those roses in crack pipes. And fetish urine. Not sure how they're staying in business as the town they are located in has a population of about 200. If you include the nearest towns, you get a whopping population of about 3,100. They sell drugs through the back door. Guessing the real money-making products are not on display in the main room. Kitchen scales. I bought one on Amazon that had poor reviews because you couldn't measure out portions of a gram. My stupid ass asked my husband why the hell someone would care if the measurement of their flour was 1/10 of a gram off. He just stared at me until I got it lol. I bought some small scales which measure to 0.1 of a gram. Specifically for weighting dry yeast for pizza dough. From Amazon. A lot of the questions were asking if the police will know they have bought them. I found it amusing, so sent a link to my friend, who in turn told me he had the same set for weighing his weed. Yup, same here. The best pizza dough recipe I use calls for 0.3 grams of instant yeast. You need a 1/100 scale to get that right, as even a 1/10 scale could be off by approximately 15%. 0.26 to 0.34 would both read as 0.3. Hey, I want to know my coffee is down to the 1/10 of a gram when I'm making my weekend pour over. Found James Hoffman's alt account. Back massages, especially the famous Hitachi magic wand for relieving sore muscles and back tension. I will have you know they actually work great for that too. Rose in a glass. https www.forbes.com/sites/david-a-salvo/2012/07/12/a-rose-in-a-a-crack-pipe/. Interesting. 90% of the crack pipes I've seen in my life were made from pens, actually. In my past career I was a cop. I realize now maybe I should clarify why I've seen a bunch of crack pipes. After that first sentence I was wondering why you had seen at least 10 crack pipes. Thanks for clearing that up. And down the aisle you'll find the Chore Boy. A convenience store's crack pack. A rose, Chore Boy and lighter, ready for you at the checkout counter. I'll start. Q-tips, cotton swabs. Everyone puts them in the canal. But the boxers always pretend like they're made for the outside of the ear, rolling on the floor laughing. Ear dildos. Love the way they make my UC feel. Hurts so good face with peeking eye. Back in the days before digital cameras, 35mm film came in plastic bottles that everyone used to store their weed in. Oh my gosh, I feel so stupid right now. I posted about 200 of these in a free BFB group probably 15 years ago. I had suggested that they'd be great paint pots for arts and crafts. Or for storing things like sparkles, glitters, buttons. I got absolutely blasted in the comments, lots of things like, leaving the business. Quote, and, I'll pick him up at 420 inches and now I get the joke LMAO. I feel so absolutely stupid but this is hilarious. This is adorable. Bro LMAO. One time I went to Michael's and I was like, hey, do you sell small Ziploc bags for storing? And then I trailed off because I couldn't remember what they were for. The associate was like, buttons. They're for buttons, and I was like, yes, thanks, those are the ones. Lol, I bought a bunch in my 20s and probably got some side-eye. I wanted them for board game pieces. Bobby pins. Groove side faces down towards the scalp to effectively hold the pin in place. This comment is like 15 comments down and is the first where the misuse is mundane incorrect use. Rather than, used for a different purpose than intended. When I first read, bobby pins, I immediately wondered how in the world one uses bobby pins to smoke drugs. That video where a girl sticks it in her hair, then flips it over and secures it to hold so much of her hair up. These are the kinds of instructions we need on packaging, not, do not use hairdryer while sleeping. Quote. This broccoli roller. Load in your broccoli. Give it a few twists, and just like that it's ready to bake in the oven. Broccoli rolling has never been more simple. LMAO. And just like that it's ready to bake in the oven. Whoever wrote the copy for that ad is a genius. Poppers, leather cleaner, do not inhale or ingest. As a regular leather worker, do not use poppers to clean leather. But as an audio worker, it cleans tape heads really nicely. In sex stores, the word popper is generally banned because it denotes a drug use. We sell them as video head cleaners, nail polish removers, and to clean the corrosion off battery contacts. If someone used the word popper, we were not allowed to sell them the item. I had a guy furious with me for it, and he walked out of my store screaming, that's what they're called. Poppers, poppers, poppers. Quote, my wife and I still say, poppers, poppers, poppers. Quote, to each other all the time. I'm reading a book about the history of poppers at the moment. It was originally developed as relief for angina and was sold as such, but certain pharmacies got a reputation for not caring that most of the angina sufferers seemed to be young able-bodied men. Until there was a crackdown. I'm apparently old and out of touch with the drug game. Because I don't understand most of the things y'all are saying in here. Here I was thinking the top answer was going to be Q-tips. 'Cause you're not supposed to stick them in your ears. I too came here to upvote the Q-tips. I was never cool, but at 40, I'm basically living in a parallel universe from everyone else. Eyeglass cleaner at the gas station was crack pipes all along. VCR head cleaner will make someone else's head dirty. I'm learning so much today, lol. Up until recently, Pedialyte. Marketed as a drink for babies, but was used as a hangover cure. Recently they started marketing to adults however. I think it's been used a drink for dehydrated adults. Either hungover or ill, more than it has been used for infants. Infants are notorious for having very little money to spend on Pedialyte. Or anything else for that matter. In the UK, sales of nitrous oxide canisters used for whipping cream have skyrocketed in the past 10 years. Spoiler, this isn't due to the correlation in popularity of The Great British Bake Off. It's due to its dissociative psychoactive effects. Dated a guy who was addicted once. You might think, this is not an addictive substance. Doesn't matter. He went through about 200 charges, 3 to 4 times per week. He had probably £600 in spent charges in boxes in his attic. One time I had a seizure in his house and he had to call 911. Instead of letting EMTs into the room where I was unconscious. And all of his drug gear was everywhere. He dragged me by my feet up 2 stairs and into the foyer. Kids, this drug is not the one. Plus also his canisters got lined with grey-brown gooey residue after approximately 3 boxes. That shit is going in your lungs and bloodstream. And vitamin B depletion. Taking a pill won't help BC, your body can't process it for days after nitrous use. Causes paranoia, delusions, and depression along with physical health problems. I moved out. He's still there, slowly killing his brain. Instead of letting EMTs into the room where I was unconscious. Here's a tip. EMTs only care about getting medical care to the patient and generally only care about the surrounding environment for the safety of the patient and themselves. They won't be going to the cops saying, I saw a crack pipe. Arrest them. Quote, because they don't want anyone to ever have second thoughts about calling in emergency medical assistance. Source. Used to be the IT guy for my county's EMS services and they'll talk your ear off if they're not sleeping or on a call. eBay has a few BDSM items for sale. Crops, canes, etc. They are usually described as for roleplay. Fancy dress. Acting props. Last I heard a few years ago there are a notable amount of states, locals where selling sex toys is illegal. These laws are often skirted by labeling items as adult novelties. Quote, these laws and labeling are dangerous. When all sex toys are labeled, for novelty use only. Some manufacturers use cheap materials that definitely should not be used to make sex toys. Some plastics may not be the proper density and have pores that harbor bacteria and cannot be properly cleaned. Some materials can cause chemical burns after degrading over time. Sometimes there's a wire inside a bendy dildo that can break and pop out of the shaft mid-play. I read about a couple who were excited to use their toys for the first time in years after sending the kids to summer camp. Both of them ended up with severe internal chemical burns. That story lives rent-free in my head sometimes. Our lawmakers will never create legislation to regulate the sex toy industry because their careers couldn't survive the backlash from voters scandalized by the idea of safe sex toys. Instead, we have laws to label them all, for novelty use only, and manufacturers have absolutely no legal or financial obligation to make them safe. Be careful where you buy your dildos and stay safe, y'all.